This is Scoreboard with Chris Titley. Powered by Swiftex. Where can crypto take you?
Hi, it's Chris Titley here. On today's episode of Scoreboard, the podcast, I'm joined by Moises Henriques. Moses, thank you so much for being part of this series.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me, Chris.
How did I go with your name, by the way?
That was pretty much spot on. Well done.
Brilliant. I've been practicing it 20 times before this podcast. No, just joking. We're sitting here on Friday, the 27th of March, 2026. How's your 2026 been, Moses?
Not too bad, I guess. I've sort of been carrying quite a severe back injury for the majority of it, and then I had a back operation about 5 weeks ago to try and fix that. So, otherwise, I've been trying to manage that. I graduated my master's, and we got to a Big Bash final. We didn't quite win it, but that's about it, really.
Wow. So between surgery, the books, and playing cricket, it sort of covers the lot. What's involved in back surgery?
They basically just shaved away a disc that had sort of popped out or prolapsed a little bit away from where it should be, which was in July it was in May of last year when I first did it, and it's causing me pretty much a great deal of grief over the last sort of 9 months. And then basically as soon as the Big Bash season was over, it was time to get under the knife and shave it away. So it seems to have worked to some degree at the moment. Now I'm exercising a little bit more. I'm a little bit more aware of it again. So we'll see how it goes. I'll know a lot more in the next few weeks.
How did you go playing with that during the season? Was it niggling? Was it getting out of control, sort of under pain management and all that sort of stuff?
I was very thankful that I retired from 4-day cricket, because there's no way I would have been able to back up after a day or back up after a T20 match and play another one. So, I think T20 cricket isn't quite as hard on the body as 4-day cricket is, or the mind for that matter. But I think, the fact that with Big Bash that I could play, rest the next day or travel or do whatever, and then sort of manage games. If I went into a game a little bit sore, I could take my anti-inflammatories or some painkillers and manage that 3 hours pretty okay. But if it wasn't, if it was the long form cricket, I was usually in the most pain the day after a game rather than actually during the game. So, I think that tends to be the case with a lot of people that have back issues, or, especially disc issues, that you sort of break into spasms and so on after exercise or after heavy exercise. And when my back was as fragile as it was, any sort of exercise seemed to be setting it off. But I seemed to manage okay if I had long enough breaks in between games, really.
Mate, the back spasms are unbelievably painful. My physio, when I had them maybe 18 months ago, called it the socks and jocks, mate. You couldn't put your socks on or couldn't put your jocks on.
Yep, that's basically that. I mean, that's the best case scenario. You just stay nude all day. But no, I guess, when I first did it, I was over playing for Nottingham, and I literally basically limped to the shower most days. Like the first 4 or 5 days until I had an epidural, I was, bed to shower, shower to bed, and that was it. I didn't leave the house for 5 days. So I was in a world of pain, but that eased off over time and over, pain management, etc., trying to bring that down. But it wasn't a nice one initially.
How do you personally view injuries through professionalism in cricket, particularly? Obviously you play, but in regards to some things happen, and how did you go with them?
I think this was like my 9th surgery across my career, so I've learnt that they're sort of part and parcel of playing elite sport. However, I've also learnt that prevention's a lot better than a cure. So, in terms of trying to put the work in, which I probably, when I was in my early 20s, I focused a lot more on, being strong, being powerful, being fast, and doing all those things, and less on prehab or preparing to not get injured. And funnily enough, I got injured a lot more in my early 20s. I was trying to be as powerful and as strong as possible, where cricket's probably a little bit more of a skill sport or dominated by skill. So I was finding that balance of, okay, how fit and strong do I need to be effective in cricket? And then also, to be effective, I actually need to play and get on the field. So there's this management of, am I doing the right amount of prehab, or, with the injuries that I've had to date, or given the position that I play, what are some exercises that I can do, or some mobility that I can do to actually, I guess, prevent injuries occurring in the future, rather than constantly reacting to the injury after the fact.
With the changing dynamic, and you've seen it all in cricket, is the preparation physical? Has it changed a bit since you've first started?
Yeah, it seems to be going like in this really big cycle. I think when I first started, the game was just starting to get a lot more physical, I think, and there was a lot higher expectation. I think, like, especially the first 5 or 6 years of my career, which was over 20 years ago now. I started professionally in 2004. I think, like, some key athletes at that time, you look at Shane Watson, Mitch Johnson, Andrew Simons, Matt Hayden. These guys were all driving, like, supreme sort of physical standards, and they sort of set what the next generation of cricketers wanted to, I guess, okay, this is what the new cricket athlete looks like, and we were sort of, on the back of that. And I was definitely, always chasing that perfection of trying to be a well-rounded athlete. And I guess a similar story to Watto in the sense that I had a lot of injuries, and then it was trying to find a balance of, okay, how fit do we actually need to be to play this, skill dominant sport? And it definitely helps. Like, speed and power and strength absolutely helps. So it's not about not doing it, but it's about managing it so that you're as effective as possible. So it sort of went into this cycle where, okay, you've got a really strong base now. Your physicality is going to help you for the rest of your career. Now it's a case of just being able to stay on the park.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And from a youth point of view, I'm fortunate to play with and against Shane at the youth level. And he did have stress fractures in a game that we were playing him, and he bowled off spin. And one of the blokes hit him for six. He didn't really like that. And then he sort of bowled the fastest ball I reckon I've ever seen in live cricket. And it went over the keeper's head for 4 byes. And then the batter said, I didn't even see that. It's like, no, I didn't see that. I've got that up my sleeve. But I knew he had stress fractures, so we couldn't bowl it. But they
Yeah.
showed that at that time, stress fractures were like a thing of going, oh, hold on a second. What is it? And now,
Yeah.
however, 30 years later, it's still a thing in youth sport.
Yeah.
And
Oh, absolutely. I think it always will be, to be honest.
yeah, and the way that people grow and the loads, etc. I'm curious around you in your most comfortable format of the game and what you're doing, batting, bowling, both, and what type of game. Where are you? Where's Moises Henriques?
It's a great question. I think it's something that's of, like, catch me on a day, catch me on a time of the year, and I'll have a different answer for you. Obviously, now that I'm really, focusing more on T20 cricket, I'll say, batting second and we need 8 or 9 runs and over to win the game. That's where I'm most comfortable. The trying to navigate a chase under pressure, like, that's when I want to take ownership of the game at the moment. But 20 years ago would have been with the ball in my hand in a 4-day game. Then 15 years ago would have been at any opportunity to bat and bowl in a 4-day game. And then there were times where, like, when a T20 game was first starting off, and is probably when I was in my best fielding position, I used to just love being on the ring, like at backward point or forward point, and trying to make an impact on the game. Like, especially when a game first started, because a T20 game, especially because of the vibe, the crowd, and everything, you just got up for it. So whenever there was a good crowd, trying to make an impact on the game in the field. But then, probably towards the later end of my career, it's probably become more so about, 1-day game and T20 game navigating chases, specifically chases, maybe more so than setting a store.
And does that impact when you win the toss then? You're like, oh, it's like, I love chasing.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And in regards to cricket as a sport, it's an obvious question, but I don't know whether the answer is yes straight away. But do you love cricket?
Oh, I love cricket. I fell out of love with cricket for a while, and I needed to find a way to learn how to love the game again, like I did when I was a kid. Like I just loved the game so much when I was a kid. I couldn't stop playing it. I loved watching it. I scored it when it was on TV. I was an absolute cricket nuffy, and I remember when I was sort of 8, 9, 10 on a Friday night, I'd be looking out the window, making sure it's not going to rain, and I'd be fuming if it was going to rain. And then, like, strangely, in my mid to late 20s, it was like the opposite. I'd look out the window hoping it was going to rain, and I needed to find a way, like, how to, that for me was a really big sort of, and we might talk about it later on, but that was a really big sort of point in my career where I was like, why am I playing? Why am I still doing this? And how can I get back to sort of growing the love that I used to have for it? And I can happily say now that I definitely, I don't play as much cricket as I was 5 years ago because I'm not playing the 4-day part of the game. I'm still very excited to play the game now, especially the shorter formats.
What were the catalysts looking back that made you fall out of love with it?
I think a lot of people, when they're not really honest with themselves, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself at the time and a lot of other cricketers that I think have followed a similar journey, is, we love the game when there's no pressure on us or there's no external expectation. And then, when we're a really young cricketer, you can get picked on teams on potential, etc. And you can sort of, like my late teens and my early 20s when I first started debuting, not that you think it consciously, but you're aware that, like, I've got my whole career in front of me. If I don't do well this game, it's okay because I'm so young and I'm still learning and all that. But then there's a time where you get to your sort of a little bit later on in your early 20s, maybe your mid 20s or your late 20s, where you realize, potential's not going to get me picked anymore. I either haven't set the world on fire yet, or maybe I have, and I've got to keep those I've got to keep those standards up. And what? If I don't do well for 2 or 3 games in a row, I could lose my career, or I could get sacked, or, the way I looked at it, especially playing for New South Wales, is you're always just 3 bad games away from being dropped. I could score, you could do well with the ball or bat, but, it really, you're a few bad performances or a few bad results away from being dropped. And then possibly, that could be your career if you don't get another opportunity. So where in your early 20s, in your late teens, you're more than likely going to get another opportunity because of how young you are. But I think once you get to your sort of mid 20s and late 20s, that started to play a part. The fear of failure definitely started to play more of a part of where I never really had. I had a fear of failure when I was younger, but it sort of manifested a little bit more as excitement and just wanting to do really well. Where when I got a little bit older, in my mid to late 20s, the fear of failure turned into withdrawing from, like, wanting to withdraw rather than being excited to go out and perform. So I found like I wasn't enjoying it as much, and the game wasn't making me, I wasn't looking forward to playing. I was looking forward to breaks and just getting to the end of a game and, things like that. So it was like a means to an end. I was playing it because it paid well rather than playing it because that's the game I loved playing.
You felt like maybe you're getting a little stale, potentially? Is that a word to describe it?
I mean, that was the excuse I used at the time. Mentally I told myself, oh, I've been playing for so long, like maybe I need a change and all this. But really it was just the fact that I wasn't handling how the game made me feel rather than, or how I felt about the game rather than, it was, the game hadn't changed. The rules were exactly the same. It was just, I wasn't handling things the way that I used to handle them. I was looking at the game at a completely different way. And I was, there was a lot of fear about performance, about, what happens, other people's opinions, etc. What happens if I don't do well? And I got caught up in the future way too much.
Did you have a goal in mind that maybe that wasn't getting closer that potentially impacted that?
Um, Potentially, like I think when I first played for Australia, or even when you first win your first tournament or series, and you're sort of like a professional series, um, like the initial feeling is so rewarding and so satisfying, but then you sort of wake up the next morning and you go, okay, so what now? Like I've just like, I just do it again? And I think I was like always like wanting more and wanting something else. And then like, I guess I played for Australia or I'd won a shield or won a 1 day tournament. And I was kind of like, okay, why am I still being left to feel a little bit like that something's missing inside? And I'm not like, after that first second of the win or the 100 or, representing your country, why the next day am I left feeling like, oh, okay, so what's next? What am I doing? Like, do I just keep doing this and do it again? And keep putting myself into the fire or into that sort of high pressure situation? Or, why doesn't the satisfaction or the fulfillment last longer? Basically, was kind of like, I was like, why am I doing? I started questioning all these things, like, why am I doing this? I don't feel nice. It doesn't make me feel nice, etc. But yeah, it took a lot of work mentally and emotionally to sort of flip the way that I thought about the game, to then, yeah, I guess continue on and still be playing now.
Can you share some of those maybe daily or practices potentially that kind of flip the switch to kind of make it fun again and go back to why you played it?
Yeah, well, the main one was, I guess, and it's so much easier to say than do. So when I say it here on a podcast, I don't want people to think, oh yeah, you just need a flick. It's like, it's something that you can just change overnight. It took a lot of time to do, but was for me to stop, like to try to, okay, how do I get rid of the fear, or how do I stop withdrawing? And what are the actual moments that are making me feel like, why am I not enjoying the game? What am I scared of? What do I fear? And whether it was failure or whether it was like, I remember there used to be a time where I didn't really want to bowl or bat when the game was there to be won. I was like, oh, I don't want to stuff up. I don't want to be the person to blame. Um, and it was just like, if I'm in the field and there's 3 overs to bowl, and it didn't last very long. This was all during that time, but like, and the opposition need 10 runs and over. I'll be like, oh, we've got better people to do this than me, and I don't want to do it. I don't want to stuff it up and lose the game for the team, etc. And those types of, I knew that deep down I needed to change that, and I needed to be the person that, irrelevant of whether there were better people to do the job or not, I needed to be confident and positive of, I'm going to go into that moment, I'm going to step into that moment, and I may fail. There's no guarantees. I may fail, I may succeed. But instead of worrying about the future, I sort of tried to go, okay, this is what's going to happen. These are the things you could control, is like your planning, what you think about, what you want to do if you are going to bowl those 6 balls. And what really freed me up the most was thinking, okay, this is a great experience because I feel a little bit uncomfortable right now. This is going to be a great experience for me to learn from after I've been through it, whether we win or lose. Like I might lose the team the game, or I might win the team the game, but either way, I'm going to learn and I'm going to be better for it. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that where does winning then come into it? Because I've heard this a number of times through some athletes that have given themselves every opportunity for the best version of themselves, win, lose, or draw. But then looking back at your career in terms of athletes are hyper competitive. Are you hyper competitive and always want to win? And then how did that then balance?
Oh, absolutely. And you still like in that moment, it's not like I'm there bowling trying to lose. I'm still trying to win. But they were the thoughts that allowed me to be freer and to be less tense and to be more and to think with more clarity under pressure and to like actually want to go into those moments. So by telling myself, because it's you can't just not care. People say, "Oh, you play your best when you don't care," which is, I don't know. For me, I've always been a carer, so I couldn't just not care. And for me, it was about shaping it to myself mentally in a different way. And for that was, you know what, like you could lose. I might lose my team the next 3 games in a row. And I might get dropped, and worst case scenario, but if I learn from each one of those events, I'm sure if I keep learning and I keep growing in my next chapter of life, even if cricket doesn't work out, I would have learned from these experiences and I'll be better off. And for me, that was like I was like, oh, shit, if I'm not good enough to perform to do what I'm fearing, then maybe I shouldn't be playing this game anyway. And maybe I'd be better suited to something else. But I love this game and I want to play it. And I want to see how, at the end of the day, you do want to compete against, in those pressure moments against the best players in the world. And I guess freeing myself up and allowing myself to fail was like, okay, you probably will fail a lot of the time. And in cricket, especially, you will. There's no doubt about that. And it's more so about, for me anyway, the language of it's just it's just an experience or an opportunity for growth. And it's an opportunity for me to improve as a person, as a cricketer, as a leader, etc. It was always just I tried to change it to be an opportunity to grow rather than an opportunity for me to stuff up. So that was what changed, and then allowed me to start enjoying the game again, because I didn't have that fear of those moments anymore. I actually I wanted to challenge myself again in those moments, which I always did when I was younger. But it sort of, once I realized that, this could be career ending, it started to change a little bit.
And can you give me an example of some of those moments, or a moment where you did feel like you learnt a lot, or you may have lost the game that sticks in your mind? And then I'm going to ask you about the one where it sort of paid off.
I remember, I think what's one game that might have set it all off is we played against, it might have been BBL 01, like the first ever BBL. Maybe it was the second, and we were playing against the Scorchers, and they need 44 to win off 18 or 46 to win off 18. It's a bit wet, it's been sprinkling. I'm bowling to Luke Ronke, and I bowl waist-high beamer. I'm trying to execute a Yorker. It slips out my hands. I bowl a beamer, 6. So first ball of the over, 7 runs off it, no ball 6. Still not a ball that's been bowled. Next ball, run in, and it's a free hit. Another waist-high beamer, 6. So I've gone for 14. I haven't bowled a ball yet in the over. I'm none and I've actually had decent figures up until this point as well. So, and then I'm thinking to myself, oh, great. Now this chase is very gettable for them. Where it was almost out of their reach at that time. This is 15 years ago, so this is a long time ago. 44 off 18 was a lot harder to get back then than it is now. And yeah, then I bowled my next ball, which wasn't a waist high fully. And unfortunately for me at the time, I was like, oh, weren't those dangerous? Take me off. Can someone call me for being a dangerous ball? Because I don't really want to bowl the next ball. The next ball went for 6 as well. So I'm 20, and it wasn't a no ball. So I'm 20 off 1 ball in an over. Thankfully for me, I got Luke out the next ball. The rest of the over went for 2 runs. So I still went for 1 for 22 off the over, but the 2 gentlemen bowling the 2 overs after me were Mitch Stark and Brett Lee, and they finished the job off and we won the game. So like, but for me, like, it was a really embarrassing moment, or like, I was really ashamed of the misexecution and how I'd sort of turned a game that was going to be relatively easy to win, and sort of what should have been relative, like a sort of, it was ours to win. And then I basically, in the space of 3 balls, all of a sudden it was theirs to win, and it was all because of 3 mistakes I'd made. And that, like, I didn't want to do that again after that. Even though we ended up winning the game, I was like, I don't want to be in a situation where, you know, we're doing well in a game, or we're 50-50 in a game, and I'm going to stuff it up for the team. And I almost, like, from that moment on, I was kind of like, I'd prefer just, like, and I never said it to anyone, but in my head, I was like, I don't want to go into that moment. I still always, if, you know, obviously if the captain asked me to bowl, I would always bowl and always bat. But like, mentally, I was hoping that I wasn't called upon in those moments, because I was like, I don't want to stuff it up for the team again. And that's what really, I think, started that sort of wanting to, I guess, not enjoying those moments as much. And it really manifested it. And like, one negative thought turns into 5 and turns into 15. And then I was thinking about my whole life negatively as well. So it wasn't, you know, I think it wasn't just, that's just one moment for me that stands out, where, you know, I live with that shame of stuffing that game up, or even though we still won it, but stuffing my role in that game up for a long time.
I've chatted a fair bit about the goldfish mentality. How do you go with that?
Oh, no, I don't. That's not a thing for me. And there's very few athletes that live in the middle. You know, you got the ignorant, or you got the overthinkers, and there's very few athletes that live in the middle that have a healthy dose of both. You know, that can let things go that need to be let go, and that can not overanalyze. And once you learn to do that, and it takes a lot of time to sit in the middle of those two areas of the, you know, the goldfish mentality, where you're just constantly confident and you're just forgetting all the errors or faults or the doubts, which is, you know, what a great place to play your sport. The only thing is, you probably don't learn as much as well, because you're not taking in all the learnings. You're just, you know, if there are faults to be fixed, you're not taking those learnings on. But I still think that mentality is sometimes better than the overthinkers, who are constantly trying to fix things that don't need to be fixed, or who are constantly playing like they feel like they're not good enough, or that, you know, they've still got things to get better at.
The margins between you trying to bowl a Yorker, then it becomes a waist high flick for 6, versus you delivering that Yorker, clean bowling him up, doing the same thing the next ball, getting 2 for none, and then potentially getting a hat trick. Very fine.
Yeah, they don't look that fine when you watch it back on TV. There's about 1.5 meters difference, but when you're, like, in terms of when you're actually letting, like, when you're in your bowling action, and, you know, where you actually let go of the ball, it is very fine. But yeah, I guess when you're looking back at the pitch map, yeah, it doesn't look as fine. It doesn't look quite as, the margins don't look quite as small.
But then when you execute on that down the track, and you learn from that, and you do have a big moment where it comes off, do you want to describe that then?
Oh, it's just the amazing feeling of, you know, we always talk about it, but confidence, and or flow, or whatever word you want to use. But like, you execute a Yorker, the first Yorker that you might want to try and execute, then I'm walking back to my mark after that ball, going, well, I'll just do that again. Like, and it's not even like, nothing else pops into the mind. It's like, that went to plan. We'll just do that. You miss the Yorker and it's a full toss. You are not thinking, well, I'll just execute a Yorker again, because you've just missed, and now you're like, okay, well, I can't do that again, or I'll try and do that again, and I really hope I pull it off. Or if I don't pull it off, I hope it doesn't get hit here. And then you're in this, I guess, flux again, where you're worried about what might happen in the future rather than just, well, I've already executed it well, I'm just going to do that again. And there's no worries about what may or may not happen. So it's an amazing thing, this, like the confidence or the flow state, because it takes away the doubts or the person on the other shoulder that is telling you, oh, you can't do it, or maybe you can't do it. And that person will always turn up at some point. And I think like having the mental skills and emotional skills to quieten that person when he does turn up, I think is, one of the greatest skills you can have as an athlete.
I've been chatting to a couple of sports psychologists that suggest that you give that person a name and they're always there with you. And there was a Formula One driver that used to put the name in the sock and metaphorically, and then get on with it. But he or she is always with me, and they'll sort of rise in various situations. But it's almost like, hello, you're here. I know you're here.
Yeah.
Keep going. Is that something similar to you?
Yeah, it is. I got to a point where I let it speak. So like whatever, I was like, okay, say what you want to say. Tell me I'm not good enough, or tell me that I'm, whatever. Say it, and then I would almost try and talk back to it with the other person, and then I'd be like, oh, like why? It feels like it's almost like having bipolar, but like I'll talk back to it with this feeling of, no, this is the way I want to think, or this is the way I want it. But you still got to catch yourself out in the moment. Like otherwise that person on your shoulder just dominates, and you don't even know that there's an opportunity to think in a different way. Like if you don't have that skill to, I think, catch out when that's happening, or catch out that person, or that voice is there, and that doesn't need to be the voice that you listen to. You can listen to a different voice, or you can listen to a different thought. Or you can control the thought that you want to come into your mind. So I think the skill is in catching out when it actually happens, or when that person is that person and it's not someone else, or it's not the flow state. Because that's the toughest thing, is when you're under pressure or stress or all these things that we can't measure, and there's these doubts. How do you catch that out? How do you pull yourself out and go, oh, this is happening again. Now I need to think like this.
I'm curious from a batter point of view about when you get big runs. Like I had a chat to Hugo Burden during the week here in Queensland. He got 340 on the weekend in a Premier Grade game and broke the record for a 629 run partnership in Australian Premier Grade history. And he just said there was never a negative doubt during that innings, where he was just in that flow and he's like, I'm not going to let these guys get me out. And I'm curious from your point of view, when you batted time, when you got to 60, or maybe you'd batted for an hour or two for 30, like where that crept in and how you kind of went on to get a big score.
Yeah, I think like as Hugo sort of mentions there, it's like there was this mentality for me that I used to say whenever I was batting at my best was, whatever I was on, it's not enough. And it's almost the opposite of what you want to tell yourself about life. But like when you're batting, if you just go, oh, yeah, I've done well enough here, a lot of the time then the attention to detail will drop off, or you'll let the opposition back in, or you'll play a shot that might be really enjoyable, and you might want to test yourself. But in terms of winning the game, is that what the team needs at that point to win the game? Like, it might be the most fun thing to try. And for you, like for me as an athlete or a batter, I might feel a little bit under pressure because this guy's just bowled 2 or 3 dots to me and I want to get off strike, or I want to hit him for a boundary. I'm starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable. But is that what the team needs right now? Do they need me to take that risk, or do I need to just knuckle down for a little bit longer, and maybe the bowler will actually make the mistake and I don't need to, predefine when I want to chase this boundary or chase this risk. And obviously the shorter the format, the more you probably need to preempt and premeditate a little bit more. But in the longer form of the game, a lot of the time it is just whatever you're on is not enough, and you just keep going and keep going. And you know, rather than sort of giving into maybe your instinct, or your, I guess, feeling of wanting to escape the pressure, sometimes it is actually about absorbing the pressure a little longer and just going, no, I'm not right now. This is what my team needs, and it's a little bit like the task will be different for everyone in every situation. So it's not always, the answer isn't always just, blocking it out or whatever it is, or being really negative. But if you can honestly look back, like if you're in the middle and go, what does my team actually need right now? A lot of the time it will be just to keep batting and maybe not let the opposition in with, something silly or a risk that doesn't need to be taken. And sometimes there actually might be a time where you go, well, you know what, I actually think this risk needs to be taken, because if I pull it off, it'll mean, the bowler feels under pressure, or there's going to be a lot more easier runs for me to score because the field will change, etc., and all these things. So there are times where the risk might be needed, but I guess only experience and knowledge, and I think thinking, without I guess too much what I would call like external pressure, or like you're making those decisions in quite a calm state rather than feeling like, oh no, this is the right decision because I'm feeling under pressure. Like a lot of the time when you're under pressure, it's probably, and you're feeling it, it probably just means you need to absorb for a little longer.
When it comes to clear thinking, do you get some good clear thinking now, nearing where you are now in life, and are there things that drive or macro sort of external things that help you become a clearer thinker?
Um, Look, I'm lucky in terms of sport and life. I guess in answering in the cricket sense, I'm lucky that a lot of the situations I've played in now in T20, like I've played so much cricket that there's not really going to be a situation that I haven't been in a similar one before. So experience definitely helps in terms of, I've been here like something like this before. So I know I kind of have an idea how this pans out in a good and a bad way, because I've probably been a part of both. So I guess that helps. But if you don't have the experience, then I think for me, it's like trying to remove the negative effects of failure. Because if you just become obsessed with failure, you don't actually allow yourself to be free in the moment or present in the moment to take any learnings away. So as this kind of goes back to what I was talking about a little bit earlier, about sort of almost allowing yourself to fail and just being a little bit more present in what the moment actually is, what the moment requires, rather than how you feel and what you want to do right now.
And then on the back of that, maybe something like the definition of success may change a little bit. I'm curious around what your definition of
Yeah.
success looks like now and moving forward.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was what you're talking about there, and the definition of success, or for me, it was always like the definition of success for me was when I actually put in my daily values. I put in 3 little values that I wanted to do each day, or that I wanted to live each day. And for me, success was living those day to day. And rather than winning or losing, I felt for me, if I lived those values, it was going to give me the best chance to win, in the long run. Like not only win games in the short term, but win, like be happy, and have a successful life, or whatever that is. And successful life for me was living those values. So it was like this wheel of, if I lived these values, then I think these values are going to drive on-field success, or off-field success, as well as for me mentally. I thought those values were going to drive a great deal of fulfillment and sort of joy for me as well. So it was a bit of a mix, of I think I'm going to be able to, with these values, I think I'm going to be able to be a better cricketer and a better person, all sort of wrapped in one. That's probably why I needed 3, not just one.
Do you care to mind to share those 3? I can share my 4 if you want.
Yeah, I'm very happy to share my 3. So for me, the first one was, and I'd love to hear yours as well, Chris, afterwards, if you don't mind. But the first one for me was I wanted to try and improve myself in some way each day. So it didn't need to be on the cricket field. It didn't need to be physically. If I learned something new, if I did I just wanted to improve or learn something each day. That's all it needed to be. And the second one was trying to help someone else do that. So trying to help someone else learn something new or have a positive impact on someone else, basically. And the third one was if I didn't do the first or second one, to try again tomorrow.
Oh, that's a great third one. I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting that as the third one.
Yeah, because I found after the first few months of doing this that if I didn't do the first couple, I'd actually, or like if I thought I didn't do the first couple, I would. There was a bit of negative language coming in, and so it's sort of, again, I wanted to teach myself or allow myself to fail, which also meant that I needed to allow myself to fail in trying to live those values, and that I wasn't always going to be perfect. But as long as I came back tomorrow having learnt from the day before, then sort of that was what was important to me.
Oh, that's very good. Very good. The four that I'll share with you, which have been developed over 44 years, or broadly speaking, probably only the last year or so, but connection, which is meeting new people and networking and being part of a family, a group, a school group, a parents, whatever it might be. Curiosity, which comes under the learning banner for you, about being curious and about asking questions and listening and absorbing and learning and whatnot. Prosperity, which is seeing other people succeed and wanting to see other people succeed, as opposed to potentially wanting to see other people fail, or wishing the best for people, or being a bit more optimistic than pessimistic, or above the line, below the line, whatever they may call it. And the fourth one, which is probably a little bit more of a Chris kind of personal one, is velocity. And that's not in strength only, or it's not in speed only, but it's kind of like, let's get things done, and you YOLO, and you're kind of like, well, shall we meet maybe in a couple of weeks? Well, why can't we meet and have a coffee tomorrow? Because that's what I would like to do, as opposed to put things off. Or is this, restaurant open at whatever next week on Tuesdays or something? It's like, oh, we'll do it next time. How about I just ring them now? Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it's open. We can go. Oh, okay. So get on the phone and just be a bit more velocity. And, my podcasts are kind of one or two a week, maybe two a week. And people are like, oh, that's a lot. Oh, yeah, it is. But it's like, well, why not? So there you go. There's my four.
Yeah, nice. I especially like the velocity one, because it just encourages you to get things done, doesn't it? Like this, and it's another one where, like, when you were thinking there, I was listening and I was going, it almost gives you permission to just, like, all right, it's another version of saying, let's just do it. And if it doesn't work out, it's okay. We'll do something else. Like, I think
flexibility along that. Like,
Yeah.
I tried to do this podcast last week and it didn't happen, and for a justifiable reason. But I'm not going to go, I'm going to go, yeah, that's fine. Things
Yeah.
happen. People happen. Things happen in the family and whatever it might be. Move on. And
Yeah.
if you just keep going. So anyway, we've digressed a little bit.
Yeah.
Now we've got some sponsor questions that we have, and we've got two lovely sponsors that help us pay our bills and help me interview people like yourself and learn from you. And the first one is SwiftX, and they're Australia's most trusted cryptocurrency platform with over 1.5 million users in Australia and New Zealand. They may even been a Sixer sponsor for a bit, actually. Were they a Sixer sponsor for a bit, SwiftX?
I don't think they'll Sixer, but I am a user.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Now that's paid for it 10 times in terms of the ROI for this episode. Are you a bit of a crypto person?
Not heavily, but that's my platform is SwiftX. So,
there you go. Has Hayden Kerr tipped you into a few? He's a bit of a crypto man, I think.
Yeah, he is. I try not to follow Hayden's.
There you go. And well, they've got a new campaign called Where Can Crypto Take You? And as part of that, I asked my guests their sporting bucket list, an event live that you haven't seen thus far that you would love to attend.
Oh, well, I probably can't. Probably not going to be cricket, is it? I've attended most of those.
Well, yeah. As a
I would say, I would say the Masters, the US Masters. I think, yeah, that would have to be it.
A follow-up question on the Masters: would you sit at a hole and just watch everyone, or would you follow players?
Well, I've got 4 days, so I'll do a bit of everything. I think, yeah, across each day, I try and do things a little bit differently. Maybe for the first couple of days, I'd experiment as the best way to try and do things, and then day 3 and 4, I'll really have a plan and nail down on what I should be doing exactly.
And then the 18th, everyone's running, trying to get the last
Yeah.
Rory McIlroy. But we've also got another partner in PocketSmith, and PocketSmith is the personal finance app for the household CFO, the one keeping the budget in check, paying the bills, and kicking goals. Over 80,000 Aussies use PocketSmith to track their spending, see their net worth, and plan ahead. And with all the money and sport and business and all the adult things you have to do, Moses, are you a budgeter? Are you the CFO of your household?
I'm definitely the CFO of the household, but I'm not a strict budgeter. Um, yeah, I'm not like daily checking in, checking out. It's probably more of an annual thing for me. But I do like you know, I'm not someone that's just hugely loose. And there's not really that many things that I spend money on anyway. So, yeah, like, but I would say I take close care of the finances.
You
Yeah,
close care. You keep a watch on. You put your magnifying glass on every now and
yeah,
then. Yeah.
yeah. That's
Yeah,
right.
excellent. Now we've also got our favourite all-time sporting moment, and I preface this: this does not include yourself, and something that you can potentially watch on YouTube 10,000 times.
Um, there, there's two. I hope you don't mind.
Go for it.
One has to be cricket, and it's going to be the 2005 Ashes, and it's going to be the partnership of Brett Lee and Casper, um, where they got so close, and then England ended up winning. But like that's seeing Freddie sort of go down and give Brett Lee a hug at the end of the game, and that sort of sportsmanship, and that whole series really for me was, I think I was 18 at the time, and I just started playing professionally, and watching that whole series and the way that whole series was played out, was just so epic. And I remember staying up late and watching it, and like I just loved the standard of cricket. And yeah, the way that both teams played was just epic. But that moment and that partnership for me was something that I rode so hard. I almost remember every single ball of that partnership between the two of them. Um, Unfortunately, we lost, but it didn't take away how invested I was in that partnership. And the other one was Tiger Woods winning his first Masters in '99, and like I was only 12 at the time. I didn't play golf or anything. I chipped around in the backyard, but um, just I didn't realize why at the time why I loved it so much. I probably understand it a bit more, but to see like someone who's come in that didn't look like everyone else that was playing, was 10 years younger than everyone else that was playing, and to come in and dominate the way that he did, I think it just woke the whole sport up and woke everyone up, and got like, and we still have the Tiger effect to this day. But I think that, yeah, that was for me like this moment that I'll never forget. I remember watching it almost every single day. I only used to watch um, all the majors, so I wasn't invested in golf as much as I am now back then. But any sport on TV I would watch. And I remember that just being like, oh, who's this guy? He doesn't look like everyone else playing. He's so good. He's so young. He's so like energetic. And it was just so good to watch. And I like it really inspiring to sort of to be, to try and be a Tiger Woods or someone like that, even though not everyone, obviously not everyone. That's we're talking a one in a generation type athlete, but I guess for me as well, like I moved from Portugal. I had a strange name. I didn't speak English when I first moved to Australia, and I definitely didn't fit in. And then I think around that time when I was sort of 10, 11, 12, I was starting to fit in because I was good at sport. And my peers sort of recognized that I was good at sport, and I wasn't getting teased anymore. My English was also getting better, which helped helped me fit in. But like all those things and just seeing him do what he did for me was quite like, oh, how good's that? Like he's dominating on a world stage.
Couple of questions on the back of that. Did you end up buying the 2005 DVD like I did and watched the
No, I
series?
didn't. I didn't. No, the DVD runs in my head permanently.
What a series that was. And then also the Nike logo on the, not that one, but another future Tiger Woods putt. You're wearing the Nike logo now. You in bed with Nike as well?
I am. Unfortunately, I don't get paid quite as much as Tiger does, but no, they've looked after me for the best part of my career, and they've been a great company to be involved in.
Brilliant. Excellent. Lovely. Good plug for them. We'll give them a tag. Now, the scoreboard moment, which is a moment in your life that is very visible and very visual. And then from that moment, life kind of changed. And you mentioned a little bit about growing up there with the sport thing. So maybe that could be it.
Yeah, I mean, I probably should have gone that. But the heaviest one for me is probably that moment in my cricket career where I wasn't enjoying the game, and at the time off the field I was in a pretty big depression, and coming out of that, and when I look back to that moment, it's a moment I'll never forget, and like I vividly remember, not a moment, but like I guess a time in my life that I vividly remember that I didn't think I was ever going to really fix, or I say fix, but I didn't think I was going to come out the other side of, or couldn't imagine what it was going to be like to not have this gloom hanging over. And then coming out of that and now looking back and going, oh, like, I'm so happy I went through it. Like, I think even before that point, I'd sort of been living what I would say now, I hadn't been living the best version, or living my life the way I should have been living it. And going through that sort of allowed me to go, oh, these are all the changes I want to make. And since I've made those changes, it's just been, it's been so much, like I've been so much happier and much more fulfilled. And it's, that going through that was, I think, the catalyst, and, what's probably given me the biggest learning in sport and high performance.
What a way to finish. And mate, thank you for sharing and being so open around that. And congratulations on where you've come from to where you are now. You're very open, and I suppose happiness is defined by anyone, but it seems like you're a lot happier than where you were, and moving forward to the next phase of your life, there is different perspectives, and looking forward to supporting the next phase and next journey of your cricketing journey, and also post-cricketing journey, and supporting where I can. Thank you so much for being part of this series today.
Pleasure, Chris. Thanks for having me.
This has been another episode of Scoreboard with Chris Titley. Go back and check out some of the other episodes you might have missed.